I've spent approximately 880 hours over the last 5 months researching everything there is to research when it comes to fantasy football. Now, because of that, I have identified a few players that I feel have a great opportunity to go absolutely nuclear in 2024. That's right, today we're going to be talking about a few players that, given their current situation, have a great opportunity to drop a nuke on your league mates this year. Now, when I thought about doing this show, I contemplated going through 3 names to give you, but then I thought, you know what? Maybe I should bump it up to 5. But then I just decided to say, F it, I'll bring up the ADP for rounds 3 through 8 and pick one player in every round that I like. Now, maybe you're wondering why I did not just include rounds 1 and 2. And it's really because all those guys have a chance to go nuclear this season. It's why they're being drafted so highly. Now, in case you're wondering who would I have picked in those first 2 rounds, I was really eyeing guys like Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson, but then there's also Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson. I think you understand what I'm talking about. There's a ton of guys with that opportunity in the first 2 rounds. And I'm trying to actually give you guys some good information, not just spit out the best players in fantasy football and tell you they have a chance to have a good season. Now, before I bring up the first ADP list, you guys hit a like goal in a recent video, and I have to announce a winner of a signed Devontae Adams mini helmet, and it didn't take very, you guys absolutely knocked the like goal out of the park. So I want to say congrats to McLovin 9836. You were selected as our winner, and his comment that he left on this YouTube video had over 100 likes on it, and it was filled with people leaving responses saying that they were praying for this man's family, and I absolutely love to see that. That's what this is all about, supporting each other. We're complete strangers on the internet, yet when we can find people that can help support people through tough times, it's what I absolutely love to see. So congrats, McLovin. Do me a favor, send me an email to info@thefantasyheadliners.com so I can go ahead and get you hooked up. But you know I like to give things away. So if you want to win a free 2024 fantasy football draft guide, hit the like button now and leave the hashtag dropping nukes down below in the comment section. Once this video gets over 2,000 likes, I'm going to pick a random commenter from down below that leaves that hashtag dropping nukes for a free 2024 fantasy football draft guide. So hit the like button, leave those comments, and let's go ahead and pull up the ADP, the current consensus ADP for round 3. Now, this is a mixture of ESPN, Yahoo, Sleeper, Underdog. It's kind of a consensus of all of them, so we can get a good idea no matter what platform you're drafting on. And when we pull up round 3, there's still quite a few names that have a good opportunity here this year. Now, in this round, we have Josh Jacobs, Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, Deebo Samuel, Nico Collins, Mike Evans, Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Rashad White, Michael Pittman, and Jalen Waddle. Now, obviously, we like a few of these players, right? Josh Jacobs, I think, has a great opportunity to have a great year. The biggest issue with the Green Bay running game lately had been the health of Aaron Jones, so we know that this backfield can produce, and if Josh Jacobs can stay healthy, he's going to have a lot of scoring opportunities. But the guy that I really want to highlight here is Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs, and it really shouldn't catch a lot of people off guard. And I say that because as of right now, Mahomes is on track to have the most offensive weapons on the field at the same time that he has maybe ever had. Yes, Hollywood Brown is banged up, but he's scheduled to return by week 3. How about Rashee Rice? I know he's got some off-field issues, but his court date isn't scheduled until December, which means he should be on the field at least the first 14 games of the season. They drafted speedster Xavier Worthy. They still have Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco in the backfield. But what I feel is most important, they're chasing the three-peat. That's kind of like the X factor for me this season. Now, Patrick Mahomes threw for over 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns with Juju Smith-Schuster and MVS as his top 2 wide receivers just a couple years ago. Something a lot of people don't realize about Mahomes either is he can run the ball on the ground. He's had at least 300 yards rushing now in 4 straight seasons. Not some huge number, but it's a bonus. It's the cherry on top. Not to mention, you know they're going to throw the ball a lot once again in Kansas City. He has never thrown for less than 580 pass attempts in a season in which he played at least 15 games. So we have more weapons than ever before, and an offense that we know is really going to utilize the deep passing game down the field. We got speed at all 3 levels. We got reliability in Kelce. You have everything you need for Patrick Mahomes to go nuclear in 2024. But now let's move on to round 4. Let's bring up the current consensus round 4 ADP. We got Lamar Jackson, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, James Cook, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Joe Mixon, CJ Stroud, Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara, Trey McBride, and Devontae Smith. Another round with some players we absolutely like this year. Right now, Cooper Kupp, does he see a larger role to start the season with Puka banged up and Kupp being 100% healthy? James Cook, they're going to need some playmakers in that offense. He's going to see the ball quite a bit. Can DK Metcalf bounce back this year? Actually, how about this? Can Geno Smith be a little bit better this year? Because DK wasn't the problem. We know we love some CJ Stroud as the cheapest elite level type quarterback this year. Alvin Kamara, I think, is undervalued. Trey McBride, one of our top young tight ends this year, but the guy I'm highlighting is once again Joe Mixon. Really, I say it because there are not a lot of bell cow opportunities in the NFL. Maybe there's 10 teams in the league that really rely on one running back in their offense, and Houston could be one of those teams this year. Mixon has been one of those guys over his career, but people were worried about an off-season soft tissue injury, but Mixon is already back at practice, so we really have nothing to worry about there. Any season in which Mixon has played at least 13 games, he's had at least 270 total touches in those years. It's resulted in 5 seasons of at least 1,250 total yards, and let's not just overlook the fact that he's had 37 touchdowns over the last 3 seasons. He's been a top 13 fantasy running back 5 of the last 6 years, including top 5 finishes in 2 of the last 3 seasons. Now, on top of all of that, over the last 5 years, he's averaging 14.8 fantasy points per game in half PPR scoring. Now, even Devin Singletary last season in this Houston offense managed to go for over 1,000 total yards and didn't even have 250 touches. We have one of the best young quarterbacks in the league in CJ Stroud. We have arguably one of, if not the best wide receiver trio in the NFL with Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell. We now have an above average offensive line, and now they're going to be back to full health, which is super important. They just added right tackle Blake Fisher in the 2nd round of the NFL draft as well. There is a reason that Houston traded for Mixon and then paid him a $27 million extension. If they didn't want to do anything in their backfield, they would have just rolled on with Dameon Pierce and drafted a running back a little bit later. They view Mixon as a need in this offense. The boxes are going to be empty. Houston is going to be playing with more late game leads than they've had in a long time. Mixon is a great pass catcher out of the backfield. Just make it make sense. If his ADP stays right here in the 4th round, he's probably going to be on almost every one of my fantasy teams just for the opportunity that he could go nuclear. Now, if we're through the first couple rounds and you're like, listen, I gotta play in a league against this guy, now is your opportunity over on Underdog Fantasy. So head over to Underdog Fantasy or download the app and create a new account using the referral code Headliners when you do so. All you have to do is make your minimum $10 deposit and you're gonna get a few things, like a first-time deposit bonus of up to $250 in bonus cash. Plus, I'm gonna send you a free 2024 fantasy football draft guide. You'll then have a few bucks in your account and you can join a league against me. There are links to leagues right now in the description of this video. So if you really think you can beat me and take my money, here is your opportunity. Follow those links in the description. All right, now let's head in to round 5. Let's go ahead and pull up the current consensus ADP. And when we do that, we see the likes of Mark Andrews, Anthony Richardson, Dalton Kincaid, Malik Neighbors, Amari Cooper, Aaron Jones, T. Higgins, Zay Flowers. We got James Conner, George Pickens, Ramondre Stevenson, and David Montgomery. Now, obviously, you know we love ourselves some Anthony Richardson. If he can stay healthy, dude is a top 5 fantasy quarterback. What about Dalton Kincaid? In an offense with so many available targets, he could absolutely feast this year. Zay Flowers, same thing. Didn't really add anybody this offseason in Baltimore that's going to command a large target share to take away from Zay Flowers. He could absolutely eat this season, but the guy that I'm highlighting is David Montgomery of the Detroit Lions. The dude just missed 3 games last year and still had 1,100 total yards and 13 touchdowns, and all everyone talks about is just his backfield teammate Jahmyr Gibbs. The fact remains this, though. Detroit is going to run the football a lot. While Jahmyr Gibbs is great, Monty still has a role in this offense, and he's still going to score himself some tutties. He averaged 17 touches a game in 2023. He averaged his highest yards per carry of his career last season. Detroit has the best offensive line in the NFL, no question about it. And when it comes to the overall Detroit offense, they have been a top 5 offense now in back-to-back years. Now, currently, Jahmyr Gibbs is dealing with a hamstring strain. Even though it's not really expected to be very serious, we're not going to see very much of him in camp the rest of this offseason. Like it or not, David Montgomery is going to have a role alongside Jahmyr Gibbs in this offense. But can you imagine what Monty could do if Jahmyr Gibbs were to miss some time? The dude could be a league-winning running back and go nuclear. Which will then bring us now to round 6, where we have the likes of Joe Burrow, George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, Tank Dell, DeAndre Swift, Kyler Murray, Zamir White, Keenan Allen, Najee Harris, Dak Prescott, Evan Ingram, and Terry McLaurin. Now, obviously, I've talked about Kyler Murray this offseason as a guy that I really feel is being underrated, and I still feel that way. Terry McLaurin, with a new deep ball young quarterback, is going to have an opportunity to bounce back this season as well. Can Zamir White really capitalize on a lot of volume in Las Vegas, or do they get a little bit too cute and split touches too many ways? But when I'm talking about the guy I'm going to highlight in this round, it's George Kittle of the San Francisco 49ers. That blue tent right now in San Francisco is getting a damn workout. Rumors are out there of Brandon Ayuk being traded to Pittsburgh. That's been in the news for weeks. We know that George Kittle is coming off a year with 1,000 yards, the first time since 2019 that has happened. He also averaged his highest yards per reception number of his entire career last year, with 15.7 yards per reception. We know that Travis Kelce no longer dominates this position, and when you look at George Kittle, you get a top 3 upside tight end with a top 6 price tag that's a little bit cheaper on draft day. However, if for some reason Brandon Ayuk does move on, George Kittle's probably gonna go nuclear. But let's keep it rolling here. Now we're moving on to round 7. It's Christian Kirk, Jordan Love, Raheem Mostert, Chris Godwin, Calvin Ridley, Jaden Reed, Zach Moss, Jake Ferguson, Hollywood Brown, Tony Pollard, Jalen Warren, and Rashee Rice. I love a lot of names in round 7. I think Christian Kirk has an opportunity to bounce back here this year. Jordan Love, dude is going to be a fantasy stud once again. Raheem Mostert, severely undervalued in that offense. What about Jake Ferguson, one of my favorite young tight ends this year, has an opportunity to go out and get 120 plus targets. We know Hollywood Brown's probably going to fall a little bit and Rice is probably going to climb a little bit. What about Tony Pollard? I think he's severely underrated this season, but the guy I'm highlighting is Chris Godwin out of Tampa Bay. Last year wasn't great, but was it so bad that now he's dropped down to the wide receiver 35 off the board? In every season that he's played at least 13 games, he's had at least 120 targets, 83 receptions, and 1,000 yards receiving. And it's not like that's only happened one time. It's been 4 of the last 5 years. He's had 1,000 plus receiving yards in 4 of the last 5 years. The one year that he didn't was 2020, and it's because he missed 4 games. 125 plus targets in 3 years straight. 80 plus receptions in 3 years straight. Averaging 11.7 fantasy points per game over the last 3 seasons, and now he's moving back to the slot full-time in 2024. We saw that late season success from Godwin and Baker once Godwin went back into the slot. From weeks 14 on, Chris Godwin was the wide receiver 10 overall in fantasy football, racking up 45 targets, 30 receptions, and 418 receiving yards in just 5 games. We know that Mike Evans is going to command top defensive attention, but what I really love here, Chris Godwin is only 28 years old and in a contract year playing for one more big payday. Even though he had a bad year last year, he was still top 25 among all wide receivers in the NFL in targets, routes run, red zone targets, receptions, receiving yards, yak yards, and total route wins. Last year's bias has taken over this year for Chris Godwin, but in my opinion, for where he's being drafted, dude has a chance to go nuclear. Which then leads us to round 8, where we have David Njoku, Nick Chubb, Deontay Johnson, Devin Singletary, Brock Purdy, Austin Eckler, Javonte Williams, Jonathan Brooks, Brian Robinson Jr., Xavier Worthy, Jordan Addison, and Rome Odunze, and I would be lying if I didn't tell you that I don't love round 8. Now, obviously, y'all know I am a Nick Chubb truther, but the dude is coming back from a horrific injury, and I'm not expecting a whole lot to start the season. Could he finish strong? For sure, but I'm not starting the year reliant on him at all. Deontay Johnson, a lot of people think he's going to get peppered with targets in Carolina, but how good is Carolina really going to be? Are those targets going to be catchable targets? Are they going to be, productive targets? A lot of questions there. Now, Austin Eckler, I think he's worth the chance here in this round. Do I think he's going to go absolutely nuclear? Probably not. He's going to have a lesser role, but he also has a better overall offense in Washington here this year than Washington has had in years past. I like Jordan Addison, but now we know we got Sam Darnold, Rome Odunze splitting targets. So the guy I really want to highlight then is Brock Do-'em-dirty Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers. How does a quarterback coming off a top 6 season at the position basically fall outside the top 12 the next year when technically nothing has changed yet? What, because of a potential Brandon Ayuk trade? I'm sorry. I hate to be that guy, but damn it, I'll be that guy. Losing Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco isn't gonna hurt Brock Purdy that much. Now, sure, Brandon Ayuk is a solid wide receiver, but he isn't some wide receiver in this offense that is just irreplaceable. Plus, we still don't know, is San Francisco going to get a piece in return if they do trade him? But then we also have the chance that he re-signs and stays in San Francisco. We already know the 49ers still have the likes of Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, some young studs in Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing as well. We also know that this offense is a top 5 NFL offense every single year. Brock Purdy is so efficient, he doesn't have to go out there and throw the ball like Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to go throw the ball 550 plus times a year. They have an offense with plenty of weapons, full of guys that rack up yards after the catch. That really boosts the efficiency of Brock Purdy, and we already know that he can go out and be a consistent weapon in fantasy football each and every year. So in round 8, almost outside the top 12 at the position, with the weapons that he still has, he's got a chance to go nuclear. So there you have rounds 3 through 8. Which of the names that we talked about today do you feel has the best chance to go nuclear? Be sure to leave me a comment down below. You already have to leave a comment anyway with the hashtag #droppingnukes. Now, I have no doubt that we're going to hit our like goal here fairly quickly, so be sure to get your comments down below. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here for the day. Hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Fantasy draft season is here, and it is oh so beautiful. But for now, do your part to make the world a better place.